If this machine was a person, we would be scrapping in the parking lot of an abandoned Joann's. In my last video, I may have said some flippantly disparaging comments about the Singer heavy duty machines. This is my unfiltered, totally biased, and negative review of the Singer heavy duty series. Important note, if you have this machine, do not worry. The best sewing machine is the one that you can get your hands on. This is us just having a little talk. We're just being chatty. That's all. Okay? Don't take it seriously, but also maybe take it a little seriously. At first, I was going to go through like this long history of Singer, but I'm really not a history teacher. I'm just a 30-year-old with ADHD. So TLDR, Singer has been around since 1851. That's before the Civil War ended in the United States. Okay, keep that in mind. That is a long time. They were incredibly influential and innovative in the 20th century, leading in the industry in market share and quality and durability. That's important to keep in mind. But in 2004, they were acquired by... That was really bad. By private equity. And if you go on any discussion board, if you go on any like Reddit thread, there is always someone saying that the quality of Singer machines have gone down. Mind you, Singer has led the market for a very, very, very long time. They've been around for like 160 years. But there is a general consensus among sewists that their domestic sewing machines, at the very least, the quality has gone down. If you've used a vintage Singer and you've also used a modern machine, let me know your experience. I would be really curious to hear about that. Why I bought the Singer Heavy Duty and some things that I actually like about it. To start off, I was looking for a basic mechanical sewing machine because I was under the impression that mechanical machines were like more durable and more reliable than computerized machines. I'm not sure how based in reality that is anymore, but it is something that people say, that mechanical machines are more reliable than computerized machines. That was a part of my criteria. I very specifically bought the Singer Heavy Duty 4432, and I paid anywhere from $250 to $300. But the reasons I bought this machine were: number one, brand recognition; number two, the price; and number three, the number of stitches, specifically the one-step buttonhole. And I'm not just going to sit and bash on this thing. Some things that I like about the machine are the price. I think the price is great I think that's the perfect price point, like $150 to $300 for your first sewing machine, especially if you don't know if you're going to really love sewing. Two, the parts, specifically presser feet, are really cheap. If you ever buy a semi-industrial or industrial machine, or just a sewing machine with like one of where the shaft is like an actual long arm. Long arm's not the right word because there are sewing machines that are long arms. Anyway, you know what I mean. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Higher priced machines typically have higher priced parts, specifically presser feet. And with the Singer Heavy Duty, you can buy a nice little pack of presser feet and get a lot of functionality for pretty cheap, which I think is a major, major plus. Number three, it is really easy to use. As someone who has threaded machines as a child, it was like, when I was, threading it just was like muscle memory. Very simple, really nothing to write home about in terms of use. You don't really have to train yourself or anything to use this machine. And number four, they're really cute. Right now, I see people are buying like pink ones and black ones. And if they had pink and black ones when I was buying them, which they probably did, but I was so laser focused on just getting the machine that I didn't really do that much research. I probably would have bought a pink one because pink is my favorite color. So I do think that like the cuteness of the machine is definitely a reason why I bought it. It's adorable. So getting into my criticisms, I have two parts to my criticisms. One part is quality issues, objective things that I've observed while using the machine. And the second is what I like to call quality of life things, or things that I noticed after having used it for a while and kind of doing different projects and kind of figuring out what it is I wanted out of my sewing journey. For the quality issues, I think that my experience with the quality of this machine is summed up really well by this comment from Kenny Joy. I just ditched my Singer heavy duty for an industrial. I felt like I was being gaslit by all the people recommending it. I really identify with this because I've been fighting for my life with using this machine, okay? So let's get into it. Number 1, the lack of a physical manual. This one's not that big, but for me, I really love, like, I bought this machine so that I could work with my hands. I don't want to have to download a manual for it. I also want to be able to, let me show you some of my other manuals that I've gotten with other sewing machines. I tab them. I refer to these. If I have a problem, I don't Google it. I go straight to the manual. A good manual has illustrations. Good illustrations with like examples of exactly what's going wrong. They have tables of like issues and stuff like that. This is my serger. I've tabbed it as well. This is my EB1 Juki button holder. Look at how thick this is. Of course, some of it's like in other languages and stuff. The one that came with the Singer heavy duty was more of like a pamphlet. Like I didn't even take it out because it was like of no use to me. It's probably in the basement somewhere. For a company that's been around for so long, I would think that they would really have their documentation and their manuals like locked in, ready to go for people who buy these machines. Also, I think if you buy anything for like over $75, there should be a nice, meaty little documentation booklet to go with what you bought. It's just a personal belief. You know, you can roast me in the comments for that, but I just feel like there should be something really robust coming with the machine. And I remember opening it and being like, this is it? Damn. Like, there should be more. Number 2, the plastic and the moving parts. Everybody says the frame is metal, the frame is metal. But the outside of it is very plasticky and feels very cheaply made. Like when you like, you know, like tap on it, it just doesn't feel durable. And I'm not sure how you can call something heavy duty and have like the whole exterior of it made out of plastic. I just don't like the way that the plastic looks. It's not even like a hard acrylic. Like my Juki comes with like a sewing table that comes with it. And that is like a hard acrylic. And it's not even hard like that. It's like literal, it's just plasticky and it feels cheap, honestly. It does sew really fast and it does pierce. But also the shaft, I don't exactly know what the name of it is, but you know, the part that goes up and down with the needle, I'm just calling it a shaft. It's very easy to move it. And whenever you're sewing with multiple layers, a quilt, for example, which this machine is not made for quilting, so you can ding me on that. But even if you're doing like a little mini quilt, which is good for like quilting mini things like vests and like mini quilts and stuff like that, but like a full quilt, you're gonna struggle, which I will get into. But if you're sewing something with multiple layers, like a jacket or a quilt or a bag, I find that the shaft shifts really easily. And I just feel like for something that's marketed as heavy duty, you shouldn't be able to move the parts that easily. I could be wrong. Maybe because it is a zigzag machine and I'm very used to my straight stitch machine where the shaft is like, it is locked in there. So if you have like insight on that, like please let me know. I would love to hear other people's perspectives about this. From my experience, the plastic and like the shaft moving were just like, this doesn't feel as advertised as heavy duty. Number 3, the uneven feeding and tension issues. So I first noticed the uneven feeding when I was piecing a quilt top together. It was just like slight puckering. Like if 2 pieces of fabric were like the same length, and I knew that they were the same length, when I would get to the end of sewing them, they would be a little uneven. And that uneven feeding is really not what you want when you're piecing 2 things together that really should be the same length. Once I saw the uneven feeding, I really couldn't unsee it, and it was really, really annoying. I tend to not reach for this machine for anything where I need like real precision. In terms of the tension issues, so many bird's nests. Now, y'all, I know how to thread a sewing machine. I know how to thread one. I'm not an idiot. But this sewing machine, when I take it down and I go to use it, I have to rethread it 2 or 3 times because I get bird's nests on the bottom. It makes me think that there's some kind of like timing issue, or just like you can, I don't know. And here's the thing. I don't want to have to figure it out. I bought this machine thinking that this is going to be a workhorse. This is going to be a good general machine. I don't want to have to rethread it multiple times when I'm just trying to do something simple like take in a shirt. And I know some people are going to be like, maybe you didn't maintain your machine, or maybe you need to like put oil in it, or this and that. I clean the dust out. I give it oil. And not only that, but I went to a community quilting event where we were making a community quilt in Detroit. And they had a bunch of these Singer heavy duty machines. They actually had I think it was more like the 4411 or something like that, the really base one. I was experiencing the same kind of threading, tension issues at this event with my machine. And I, went to the event organizer. I was like, hey, I can't get this to work. I've rethreaded it multiple times. I've redid the bobbin, and they couldn't get it to work either. They're just so finicky. Once they start having those tension issues, it's just so freaking annoying. I know what you're thinking. Go get it serviced. The cost of getting it serviced is probably going to cost more than the machine. Not that that should be an indicator for getting it serviced or not, but I don't even know where I could find a sewing machine servicing place or repair shop. Those are becoming far and few in between. I don't know that phrase, but you know what I mean. It's hard to find those things, especially if you live in the middle of nowhere. Number 4. I don't think these machines perform very well with lighter fabrics. This machine, it tends to swallow fabric into the feed dogs, into the little slits of the feed dogs underneath the presser foot, especially if it's on the light side. Sewing with a light rayon, forget it, especially with all of the quality issues I have very specifically with my machine. Now, I saw several people in my last video saying that they sew denim, they sew corsets, they sew bags, they can do it. And so what I will say is that I think this machine's really good with sewing thicker fabric. I want to read 2 comments from my last video because I feel like it's funny how polarizing this machine can be. Some people think it's good for one thing, other people think it's good for another. Some people have problems, some people don't. But these 2 comments very perfectly kind of demonstrate that. So comment number 1 says, what's your take on the Singer Heavy Duty? I've been using it for a long time, 5 years, and I love it. That's great. It's totally unimpressive sewing multiple layers of heavy denim, which is what I think she was trying to say in this, but works beautifully sewing jersey t-shirts too. That's interesting that the person says that they can do jersey t-shirts, because I've had a terrible experience doing it with that kind of stuff. And if I go any lighter than that, that's when the machine really starts swallowing things up. The second comment says that she teaches, I'm going to paraphrase, she teaches sewing classes and has a Singer Heavy Duty in the class, and that there's nothing wrong with the machine if you get a basic one. Interesting that she says get a basic one, because I do have the 32, which is kind of one of the higher tiers of them because they have more stitches. If it's one that has all the different stitches and it's more electronic, that one is not good. I have to say, though, that any heavy-duty machine is not good for lighter weight fabrics. I disagree with that, especially because Singer heavy-duty machines are not marketed to make pairs of, denim. And this is not picking on this person at all. I think this is just difference of opinion, difference of, our understanding of what a heavy-duty machine is. My Juki, which is definitely more heavy-duty than the Singer heavy-duty, can handle light fabrics beautifully. I think the problem with the Singer heavy duties is that it's called heavy duty, and so maybe we think, oh, you shouldn't, it's just to use for heavy duty, but really it's marketed as a general purpose machine, a general use, the perfect thing for a beginner. And realistically, a beginner is not going to be making a pair of jeans straight out the gate, unless that is you. In which case, I think you're a very cool person to just be like, I'm going to make a pair of jeans. All in all, I think a sewing machine, especially one marketed towards beginners, should be able to do a large variety of tasks, which is what this machine is marketed for and at towards beginners. Also, I don't think it's a big ask that something that's marketed as like a general use machine be able to do general things. I don't think it's a big ask for this machine to be able to sew things on the heavier side. Doesn't have to be a pair of jeans. And also be able to sew a lightweight skirt, which, if we're really being realistic, is what a lot of beginners are going to want to do. They're going to want to make a little lightweight skirt with an elastic band. It does need to be a little more heavy duty to handle the elastic. It does need to be delicate enough to handle the lightweight fabric. I want to know if anybody else has had any of these experiences. These are what my mom would call personal problems with this machine, which, if we have similar goals, this may be useful for you into knowing if like this is a machine that you should get or it would be useful in your studio. I only learned these things after sewing for 6 months to a year. And I will get into what my breaking point was, which is just, it's funny because it has nothing to do with sewing clothes. So number one, the stitches. The stitch quality, in my opinion, it's not great. It's not bad. But over time, the stitch quality degrades. When I first bought it, the stitch quality was actually pretty good. But as time has went on, a lot of the special stitches look horrendous. Like, I don't even touch those. I didn't touch them the entire time I've had the machine, which we'll get into. I just think the stitch quality is just kind of like, For top stitching, I don't think it's going to do anything special. Will it piece two things together? Abso-fucking-lutely. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think I was just looking for something that had a little bit more punch. That to me, as someone who really enjoys the craft, was just like delicious. And this machine to me is not really like delicious in the way that it delivers the stitches. So the second thing about the stitches is that you probably don't need all of those decorative stitches. Going back to the other comment about how the base models are better than like the ones with all the stitches. Definitely go with the base model because you're not going to use all the decorative stitches. If I'm going to do a decorative stitch, which I do them sometimes with like my mini quilts and stuff like that, I'm just going to do it by hand. I could see how if you have arthritis, if you are not particularly keen on hand stitching, where you might want your machine to do some of that hand stitching for you. But considering the quality of the stitches isn't great, I think you're better off getting a machine that specializes in decorative stitching, like a more expensive computerized machine or an actual embroidery machine. Third thing about the stitches, the buttonhole sucks. It just does. It was fine when I first used it, and going back to what I said, the stitches really, the quality degraded after a period of time. Buttonhole was fine at first. Now, not so much. It's a lot of like the first row of stitches, like going up and down the buttonhole will be fine. And then the second one, it will be like super unevenly stitched. Just not high enough quality for like a college shirt for my husband to wear to work. It's simply like the quality's not there. I wound up buying the Juki EB1 buttonholer, which is like a little computerized thing that you can add to your mechanical Juki machine. It's really cool. And it has like a bunch of different buttonholes, which I didn't even realize I wanted different styles of buttonholes. And also has bar tacks because the Juki is straight stitch. That wanted to be in my solution to it. The stretch stitches, my last thing about the stitches. After I bought a serger, and I'm going to buy a cover stitch soon, I'm saving up. Stretch stitches on the Singer machine are just not necessary. If you don't plan on getting like multiple machines, which more power to you, you do not need to be gripped by a sewing machine collection like I am. More power to you to use the stretch stitches. I just personally don't care to use a zigzag stitch to construct a garment. I don't think it looks good personally. I also don't like the overcast stitch. I prefer a serger stitch if I'm going to finish a seam with some kind of overcasting. The only stitch I really reach for is the triple reinforced stitch, which I've reached to once or twice. And even then, with all the quality issues and like birds nesting and tension issues and and this and that, I just wind up being like, I don't want to touch this machine because it's just too annoying. I would say if you think you're going to sew a lot of stretch garments, you should probably just get specialized machines for that. And you can get cheaper machines at the same price level as the Singer Heavy Duty. It's just personal opinion. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. that you're probably better off getting like a cover stitch or a serger or something. If you'd like, I'm working actually on a comprehensive sewing machine buying guide where I talk about all the different kinds of machines, the projects that you want to do, and what sewing machines would be best. Not necessarily giving you direct recommendations, but giving you the tools, the resources to do the critical thinking for yourself. Number 2 of my personal problems is the lack of quality of life features, is what I'm calling it. I'm a little spoiled after getting my Juki TL. I didn't even realize these were things that would make a huge difference, but when I go from my Juki to my Singer, I find myself looking for these features just out of like muscle memory. Even when I use my brother serger, I find myself reaching for some of these, and I'm like, this machine never had any of these, so I don't know why I'm looking for these features. Number 1 is a knee lift. It's where it's like a little lever, and you put your knee against it, and it presses up the presser foot, just so that you can like turn the fabric, or lift your garment out of it, or your whatever you're working on out of it. Super useful, and it becomes muscle memory whenever you're using it. It is probably my favorite feature, and I don't think I will ever buy another like normal sewing machine. Maybe cover stitch and serger, I don't really care, but a normal sewing machine, I don't think I would buy without a knee lift. Golden Girls break. Sidebar. Golden Girls are my sad show. It's like the show I watch when I'm like PMSing. I get my Golden Girls mug, I drink my tea, I watch my girls. Those girls are so funny. My husband was like so against watching it. I don't know why. And then he started watching it. He was like, these girls are actually kind of funny. I'm like, no, they're hilarious. They're so funny. So funny. Anyway, sidebar over. Second quality of life feature that this machine doesn't have that I am partial to is a thread cutter. Thread cutters are nice. Really, really nice. It is really like you can just press a button and it cuts the thread, and you don't have all these long tails everywhere. So snipping is easier, and it's like it's like one less second of things you have to do when you're working really fast. And I find when I'm like making a pair of pants and I know the steps to do the pants, it's really nice to just be able to like press the button or do the knee lift, you know what I mean? And that's just a second that I don't have to like think about and worry about. Third thing is a needle up and down. The really nice thing about my Juki is that the needle always ends down in the fabric. And this is just a feature I think you're going to get with a machine that's a little nicer or a machine that's computerized. You don't realize how many problems can happen because you don't know what point the needle is completely down and what point the needle is completely up. You can also use that needle up and down to like slowly sew a little bit. I don't do that as much, only if I'm doing something like really tricky, but it's just a nice little thing to have that when I'm using my Singer, and this might just be like I have muscle memory for a different machine now, but I'll be like, why is the needle like acting so strange? But it just doesn't have the feature. And I think it's a good feature to have, especially for a beginner. Like, these are quality of life things, but also as a beginner, they do help you and they help your workflow and they help it be a more enjoyable experience. And then the last one is speed control. I didn't think I would use this at all, but I use it all the time. I don't even have because the Juki goes super, super fast. And of course you can control the speed with the foot pedal, but it is sometimes nice to just slow down that speed and be able to just kind of move slowly over a top stitch when I'm doing a collar, or if I'm doing like stitch in the ditch. It's nice to be able to just slow that down so that I don't get carried away with my foot. And the Singer just doesn't have that feature. And again, these are features that are just more premium. They are. And I only learned that I wanted these features after having used another machine, and also after having sewed for a little while. These little things in my workflow really make a difference, and they make sewing more enjoyable. And I think sewing should be a joyful and enjoyable thing. The third thing, the thing that threw me over the edge, okay, was trying to quilt a throw size quilt on this machine. This machine is not meant for quilting. And when I made my quilt, I fell in love with quilting. I fell in love with it. And I think that when I was doing it, the shaft was shifting, the throat space was so little. I really was like, whoa, I need a machine that has more throat space. And I also need a machine that has really, really beautiful stitches. Because when you're doing a quilt, you do want those stitches to be gorgeous, because that's what quilting is about. And I even did a little bit of hand stitching on that quilt. And it was kind of like this aha moment for me that was just like, I've outgrown this machine. But at the same time, there were always problems with it. Always. At the end of the day, I came to a lot of these conclusions after having used the machine for a really, really long time. Not a really long time, it's like 6 months. What am I saying? Really, really long time. For me, I think that I should have bought something different. I bought it because I recognized it and I saw everyone else using it and everyone was saying this is a good thing to buy. But the reality is that and I did a lot of research. I felt like I did a lot of research. And I knew that people were saying bad things about the machine, but I didn't want to believe it because I was like, this is at a good price, da 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 da. What's super important here, and I want you to put your critical thinking cap on, okay, is that some people make corsets, jeans, bags, and everything under the sun with this machine. I clearly had a bad experience, but other people really love it. And I think I shared those comments before with the two kind of varying different opinions about the machine, because I think that Singer, going back to that brief history I gave, has a quality issue. Some people have a really great experience with this machine and others really don't. And I think it's a quality control issue. It's just my theory that something's going on. Something's going on in the factory where they cannot produce a reliably high quality product. I am of the opinion that these machines are so popular because Singer has strategically marketed them, strategically branded them to a beginner audience. And a beginner audience that doesn't just want a sewing machine, but they want something high quality, low cost, that's going to be able to do a variety of things. There's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but what you hear a lot of people saying is that you will eventually have to replace this machine. And I think, this is just speculation, I think Singer knows this. I think Singer knows that there's a quality issue with this machine, because the truth of the matter is that this machine is not amazing. It's not terrible, but it's not amazing. And they've really cornered the market on beginners who want good tools and equipment. But that group doesn't quite know what they want out of sewing or what a good sewing machine or a good sewing tool looks like. And I'm going to say, I said before, if you bought this machine, it's really not that big of a deal. Just use the machine. Any sewing machine that you can get your hands on is a good machine. But I think I have larger overarching problems with the branding and the marketing of this machine. I don't think it's heavy duty. I think that is pure, 100% pure marketing. Some people will disagree, and if you disagree, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But who is this machine for? Because I know I have not convinced all of you not to buy this machine or not to love this machine, and that's freaking okay. We're all different people. All of our sewing journeys are different, and I think that's a beautiful thing about sewing is we get to learn from each other, and we get to be like, that technique worked for you. It didn't work for me. I want to see how it worked for you. That's the beautiful thing about sewing. And it's the beautiful thing about sewing communities is that we're all so focused on the craft and making and doing cool things that a lot of times it just comes down to, how'd you do that cool thing? I want to learn that cool thing. I do think there are some people who could benefit from this machine. I'm going to say, don't buy the higher models, just buy the base model if you can, like the 4411. I think it's cheaper, really, than it's one of the cheapest machines you can get from Singer. I'm not sure. I didn't really look at their lineup, but I know I was looking at the 4411 when I bought it, and it was maybe under $200, maybe just at $200. I think if, number one, you're only expecting to sew with sturdier fabrics, like canvas, like maybe jeans, like twills, like a pair of pants, I think you could sew a nice pair of wide leg pants with this machine perfectly fine. It'd be amazing. I think if you're really just trying to do little projects here and there, like tailor woven material things that you get at thrift stores or that you buy at the store, tailoring some curtains, maybe making pot holders or making little toiletry bags, I think that's going to be fine. If it's just I just want to do fun little projects here and there. I want to have the option to sew. I also think if you just want to try out sewing in the comfort of your own home, you've got the money, girl, do you. But I do have some alternatives. So here are some alternatives for buying this machine. Number one, beg, steal, and borrow. I think it's severely underrated. Like, ask around your community, your neighbors, your friends, your family. You know someone for sure that has a sewing machine sitting in their basement or their attic and would get rid of it for a small, like $50, or would just give it to you for free. You know someone. And if you don't know someone, this maybe doesn't apply to you. Number two is to go to your local library. I actually didn't know this option. I haven't done it, but my husband did recommend it. Go to your local library, get a library card, and hang out. That's just advice for life. You can read for free. You can check out movies for free. And at some libraries, you can check out sewing machines. You can check out power tools. Libraries are really a great resource if you just want to try sewing. Number three, sewing classes, either at local creative colleges or at other people have, sewing studios, and a way they make income is by teaching people how to sew. Those are great places to go learn about how to work a machine, learn how to sew in a straight line. There's this one place in Chicago, Google it, where you can go and have like open studio time and you can use all of their tools and their machines. And that's what I did before I bought a machine, to make sure that sewing was really something that I was interested in. The fourth thing, eBay, estate sales, yard and garage sales. People are trying to get rid of their machines. There's no shortage of used, well-built sewing machines that people are selling for very low cost, especially if you're just like, I just want to try this thing. Nothing wrong with buying something used. And you may be able to find a gem. Okay. I see industrial machines for like $500 on Facebook Marketplace all the time. And I kind of kick myself for buying my Juki, because I'm like, I see Juki industrial machines with a table and everything for like $500. I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have did that. But there's also no shortage of people on Facebook Marketplace who are trying to get rid of like their grandmother's machine or their late wife's machine. No shortage of people who are selling nicer, vintage, older machines that are durable, that still are workhorses for very cheap, the same price you could pay for a Singer heavy duty. Number 5 is to save your money, do your research, and just buy something nice. And I think that this is what I should have done, because I knew I had the sewing bug. I knew I wanted to sew, and I knew I wanted to sew clothes. And I should have just kept going to that open studio that I was going to, doing projects there, and I should have saved up my money, and I should have bought the machine that I bought, wanted to buy anyway. Which, I mentioned it before, but I am making a sewing machine buying guide that will hopefully be very comprehensive and very helpful. And number 6, if at the end of all of this, you're still in it to win it, to buy this thing, I would consider buying one, like I said, with the least amount of stitches, and because they're cheaper, and I think they have a lot less fluff, and I think they seem to have less problems than the computerized and the ones with more stitches and stuff like that. At the end of the day, it's your money. Do what you want. I think if buying one of these machines at your local craft store or off of Amazon or whatever is the fastest way for you to be sewing, I think that's a good thing. I think more people in my generation should be sewing, should be learning this skill. So if that's what gets you there, kudos to you, girl. Kudos to you. That's all I have to say.